Hey, so what is up guys, this is Pohdoh here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the talent trees. And I have been reading a lot of you guys' comments, so don't worry, all those videos are coming up. This is just a beginner's guide so far for people who don't really have a mage or don't know anything about a mage. So this is just here for as an introduction more or less. So if you feel like this video is unnecessary, then you can just wait, and I'll get out all my advanced videos later on. So anyways, this is going to be talking about a talent tree. It's going to be going through a brief overview of what each talent does and how useful they are, and this is just to give you a basic idea of how to spec your mage. And I'll be going over specific talent trees later on in my intermediate guide, but for now I'm just going to be briefly going through the talents so you know what's actually good and what's actually bad. So anyways, I'm just going to be going over all the talents really fast. So I'm just going to be going over the fire side in this video. So first of all, Skyfire. Skyfire is all about DPS. The talent right here that you're looking at is all about DPS. It's all about, maintaining DPS presence, and everything here is perfectly suited towards that. Zeal allows you to spam shockwaves, at a large group without ever running out of mana. Fire Flow pretty much increases your damage by 70%. On all fire spells, Elemental Overload's useless. Skyfire pretty much increases your critical chance by like 50-ish%. Ignore the 25% that it says in game. It actually is about 50%, if you actually calculate it. So anyways, that Skyfire is a very, very powerful, that's the first spell you want to be looking at if you're dueling or if you're fighting a mage. You want to see if he's using Skyfire. If he's not using Skyfire, at crucial points of the fight, that means he's an ice mage, and you should play, you're gonna have to change up your playstyle a lot. You got to change up your playstyle drastically. So anyways, going through, there's Whispering Winds. That's more or less useless, but it is an option if you want to, if you don't want to, spec and shockwave if you're an ice mage. So it's not completely useless, but I wouldn't recommend it, unless you really know what you're doing. Shockwave, that is your main spell as a fire mage, especially in PvP. In PvE, it gets less and less useless as you get more spell power, but it still is an incredibly important spell. And if you're leveling a mage, this is the very, very first talent you want to be getting. And then there's Elemental Finishing right here. Not Elemental Finishing. Elemental Phantom is very, very useful once you get higher spell power, and I'll explain in detail what exactly it can do in an intermediate video. But more or less is when you cast a fireball crit, then your frost blast and your frost bolts become really, really strong. And then if you crit with Frostbolt, that means your fireball will be guaranteed to crit. That's how it works in a nutshell. And obviously it is kind of luck based, but I'll talk about it more in my future videos. So Elemental Mastery. Elemental Mastery is something that is highly recommended for every single spec, just because 0.3 seconds is a lot, and it may not seem like a lot until you not spec it. Do you actually see how much slower you cast without it? Burnout, that's incredibly important as a fire mage. You can spec as an ice mage, and talk about this more in the future video, but pretty much after, it just says after, it allows you to do a very, very powerful combo. You can do Frostbolt to slow them down, and then you can use Shockwave, and then the Shockwave damage will be increased by 50%, meaning that you'll do a lot more damage. Just how about that? Lightning Shield has a 2-second global cooldown, but the thing that it costs a lot of mana. It doesn't do that much damage either as a fire mage, and there are some things special about Lightning Shield you must know, which I'll talk about later. But for the most part, if you're starting out, just know that Lightning Shield is a passive. It'll last for about 6 seconds or 9 seconds. I'm sorry, 9 seconds, and then it'll do damage every 2 seconds ish. It'll do about every 2-3 seconds, and then it'll work even while you're stunned, and that's the important thing. So just keep that in mind. And hence why Chain Lightning is also pretty important, ironically, as an ice mage, because it allows you to do some pretty decent damage, mainly because of the cooldown reduction, and you'll be able to spam it almost 24/7 with the PvP trinket. Blaze Prison. This is an incredibly useful spell. It's probably essential for all forms of PvP. If you're ice, if you're fire, whatever it is, it's just really useful. It pretty much silences your target for 6 seconds and has a relatively fast cast time. Spec it if you're doing PvP. Probably the most useless talent here in the entire game, to be honest. But more or less, don't spec it. That's all to say about it, unless they buff it in the future. Flame Revenge. This is one of the things that differentiates, between a hybrid mage and a true fire mage. And the Flame Revenge, what it allows you to do is that pretty much whenever you're taking damage, all your spells can be doing 30% more damage. That's all you really need to know about it. Everything else, I can get into the really big specifics about it, but just know that once your shield is broken and once you're taking any form of damage, then all your spells can be doing 30% more damage, which is a lot of damage. You will see the difference. You'll know when it activates. Smolder, don't get this. If you're PvE, it still isn't that great because it's a waste of 1.5 seconds. And if you're PvP, there's no point in this because the only reason you use Blaze Prison is for the silence effect in the first place. It's a nice picture though. Reminds me of Fire Barrage. And then next, it is going to be Blasting Fire. Blasting Fire, it's I mean, it's great, and you wanna put all your leftover points into Blasting Fire if you have any, because I'll talk about it later, but spell crit is incredibly important as a fire mage. Okay, so after that, there's gonna be elemental finishing. Never hard cast it. It takes like 4 to 5 3 seconds to cast, and it's just a gigantic waste of time. Only cast it when you have your flame mine procs, and if you are just starting out, then I would recommend you to at least spec a few points into this. You don't need to spec all 5 for it to work. You just need to spec 3 or 2 or 3, and you'll still proc a pretty decent amount of time. So only cast elemental finishing when this thing activates, and you'll know when it activates. It'll have this very specific ping sound, so just you don't know it when you see it. And then Windwalker, this is more a PvP talent, but I mean, for the most part, I wouldn't recommend speccing it at all. And Flamestorm, this is probably your most powerful spell. It takes 3 seconds to cast it, but the amount of damage it does is incredible. And if you're a fire mage, this is gonna be the go-to spell. It is very easy to punish. Keep that in mind. It is very easy to punish, but if you use it correctly, it can win you games. It can win you entire matches just casting one good Flamestorm. So anyways, that's the end of the video. I talked about all the all the talents in the fire tree. So I'm gonna be talking about all the talents in the ice tree in the next video. So hopefully you guys stay tuned and tell me, guys, if you have any questions about the game, any kind of questions at all. I'm pretty confident I can answer almost all of them anyways. So yep, this is Pohdoh. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.